After struggling in a start last week, Sonny Gray vowed that he would attack the middle of the strike zone moving forward. And although he fell into some bad patterns to begin the night on Wednesday, he quickly dialed it in to lead the Cardinals to a win. That's coming up on Busch Stadium Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of Busch Stadium Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you here in the evening hours of Wednesday, June 12th, 2024, as the Cardinals continue their ping-ponging ways. Loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, and tonight, a win. As for 8 games in a row, the Cardinals have alternated losses and wins, staying the course, holding serve, treading water, whatever phraseology you prefer. That's what the Cardinals have been doing over the last week plus. But that does mean we get to talk about a Cardinal win tonight as they defeated the Pirates 4-2 at Busch Stadium to set up the rubber game of the series and of the homestand for Thursday afternoon at Busch. The story of the night for the Cardinals on Wednesday was Sonny Gray, who, if you'll recall, last week against the Colorado Rockies, had a bit of a rough outing, didn't get through the 5th inning. He had multiple wild pitches, was stolen against, walked a bunch of guys, and it just was a very uncharacteristic outing for Sonny Gray and the things that he values, which is attacking the strike zone. He talked after that game last Thursday about maybe needing to reorient and get back to a place of being more willing to attack the middle of the zone and not try to pick at the edges of the strike zone so much. And that was with Ivan Herrera as his catcher last week. So it comes as no surprise that after Sonny Gray's outing tonight, he talked about there being those conversations throughout the week about what type of mentality he wanted to employ. And we'll play a little bit of the audio courtesy of Bally Sports Midwest tonight, as Sonny Gray basically said, we're not going down like that. If we're going to get beat, we're going to get beat, but they're actually going to beat us to do it, rather than what had become a bit of a trend for his outings, allowing free base runners via the walk. And that's still something that Sonny Gray did have a little bit of trouble with to begin this game. He started off the game with a 5-pitch walk to Andrew McCutchen and then allowed a hit to Bryan Reynolds. Suddenly it's second and third, nobody out to begin the game, and Sonny Gray wasn't having it. He knew that he had to lock in quickly, and whatever it is that happened, we know he didn't run into the clubhouse and get naked and put on a entirely new uniform set like he did that one time between innings, because this was happening in the very middle of his first inning of the night. But he found a way mentally to lock in and ended up striking out the next 3 batters to get out of the first inning jam on 10 pitches. He almost had the immaculate inning, which is 9 pitches, 3 strikeouts. That's your inning. A rare feat in Major League Baseball. He almost had something of the sort in the middle of the inning after walking McCutchen, giving up the double to Reynolds. He went 3-pitch K, 3-pitch K, 4-pitch K, almost got the check swing there on the third batter of that sequence, which would have been Ke'Bryan Hayes, and just a little bit outside, wasn't chasing it, got him to strike out on the next pitch. Very impressive, and from there, the tone had been set. Sonny Gray found it tonight. He has been looking for an outing like this for a little while now, and he was on top of his game. 7 innings, only 1 run allowed, 4 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts for Sonny Gray, who absolutely was dealing tonight for the Cardinals, helping them to that 4-2 win. So we'll talk about Gray's outing. We'll hear a little bit from Sonny Gray as well, as I mentioned, courtesy of some Bally Sports Midwest audio. We'll continue to praise Nolan Arenado, who is really seemingly locking in a very competitive way with where his mentality is right now. Cardinals got another couple of offensive contributions from guys like Ivan Herrera, Brendan Donovan. So we'll get into all of that and how the Cardinals managed this 4-2 win tonight, as they'll look for the series win on Thursday afternoon. It's not what anybody was hoping for on this homestand, to have a chance to win 4 of 7. No, 5 of 7 really needed to be the expectation, and we know that's impossible now, so the Cardinals will just look to build upon whatever they can here and try to win consecutive games for the first time in a long time. As I mentioned, the last 8 have alternated losses and wins, now that streak continuing on Wednesday. If you enjoy Cardinals content throughout the season, make sure you hit that subscribe button on the channel. That's what I bring you each and every day with podcasts and videos, and occasionally I promise we will live stream again. But for now, let's go ahead and get into some Cardinals talk and hear from Cardinals starter Sonny Gray, courtesy of Bally Sports Midwest, on his outing from Wednesday night.
I think with the exception of the first two hitters of the game, I thought I executed pretty well. There's another hitter in there, I think Michael Taylor, when I went 2 quick outs, and then I got to a 3-0 count to him, but then was able to come back and throw a strike, throw another strike, and he fouled some balls off and did some stuff, but continued to attack him. So yeah, overall, I mean, even in, I think the fifth we put up 2 or 3 or something like that, and then you go out and the leadoff hitter hits a double on an 0-0 pitch down the line, which, you know, you make a pitch, the guy hits a ground ball, it just goes in the right spot. And just continue to attack after that. You give up the 1, but, you know, who cares? I don't know, maybe I needed the first 2 hitters to happen the way it did, because going into it, I just kind of was obviously like attacked through the middle of the plate, and told Ivan and Dusty, and we talked and said, listen, if we're going to get beat, like, we're going to get beat. Like, we're not going to continue to do the same thing that we've been doing. We're not going down like that. So then obviously the leadoff hitter happens, and then you throw 2 balls and you give up a double. And I just remember second, third with nobody out. I just remember stepping off the back of the mound and just saying, like, now's the time. You're either going to put up or shut up. You're either going to live by the words that you said in the plan going forward, or you're going to shy away from it and you're going to continue to do the things. And, you know, I just said, you know what? You said if you're going to get beat, then get beat. And the way that you approach the first 2 hitters of the game is not what you said that you were going to do. You know, so then was able to strike out the next 3 guys and get out of that inning unscathed. And it kind of got me going a little bit, to be honest.
Do you ever get the vibe listening to a Sonny Gray answer to a question, and you kind of sort of get that vibe where the only appropriate response at the end of it would be like, sir, this is a Wendy's? I love Sonny Gray because he really does give you every in-depth tidbit of information that's going through his head and just talks through it stream of consciousness. Maybe that's why I love him so much, because I feel like a lot of times that's what this podcast is. But that was one singular question that he spoke for everything that happened in the game for like 2.5 minutes, gave his entire viewpoint of the game. Talked about the moments where it got away from him a little bit and he had to lock back in. Mentions giving up the 1 run that he did give up and says, yeah, but who cares? Like, he's telling you who cares because in his mind, he goes, look, that's going to happen sometimes. And he can come away from the outing feeling really good about it. So he didn't mind the run that he gave up. It's just what you get from him. That's the honest to goodness truth. You'll never have to wonder how he feels about an outing. And man, does he talk a good... I mean, I would love to be fly on the wall. They should mic up Sonny Gray, and then they should mic up Sonny Gray's alter ego when he's having a conversation with himself on the mound, like he said he did after the first 2 batters of the game, so that you can get both sides of the conversation. But that's great. He says, look, I'm thinking to myself, it's time to put up or shut up. You've made a big deal out of saying this is what you wanted to do. After the last start, he said it in his postgame. He wanted to attack the middle of the strike zone. But those first 2 batters of the game, he was doing the things that got him in trouble into the first place last week. And he doesn't want to be that guy. If I'm going to get beat, let's get beat. And he almost had to remind himself in the middle of the start because he didn't come out with the mentality that matched what his game plan was supposed to have been. He said he talked with Ivan. He talked with Dusty. Throughout the week, they had a plan coming in for what this was supposed to be. And he had to almost snap into it after a couple of batters where he didn't have it locked in for whatever reason. He got behind on McCutchen, eventually lost him to a walk, and then he gets behind on Reynolds, and he serves up a double on him. So Sonny's got to figure it out. And then 10 pitches later, he was out of the jam, and I think he took that experience into the rest of his evening, looking like a Cy Young candidate again. Now, I know the numbers on the season aren't going to be totally indicative of that because he did have a stretch where he really struggled. But if this version of Sonny Gray is the one the Cardinals can get every 5 days moving forward, well, he's going to be on track for a potential 20-win season. He improved to 8-4 tonight, lowered the ERA back down to 3.01. He was really, really sharp. And he said even there at the end of the quote that we played, almost wonders if starting the game out that way with the first couple of batters and not really being himself, not finding the rhythm that he was hoping to find, and it wasn't going to happen for him. He had to do it himself. If that maybe was a blessing in disguise that helped him lock in. And I don't know when I realized it in that first inning, but I was tracking that mid-inning, immaculate inning sort of thing, I think after strike 2 to the second strikeout, because something clearly had shifted, and he basically started saying to these hitters, I'm throwing you strikes, but you're not going to be able to do anything about that. And he believed it. And that was just not, it was like a light switch went on compared to what he was doing against those first two batters. And it sounds like that's exactly the way he would describe it as well. So really important for the Cardinals to get this version of Sonny Gray, obviously. And it was great to see tonight from him, as he was a pleasure to watch. 9 strikeouts, only needed 84 pitches to get through 7 innings. Can make a case that he could have gone even deeper in this one, but we understand that that's not typical, that managers aren't usually going to allow guys to go into the 8th and 9th anyway. And look, you get that deep into third time through and maybe eventually fourth time through the lineup, depending. You can understand why you would just turn to a bullpen that's got his starters back. I will say, though, man, Andrew Kittredge came in and gave up another home run in this one. It's kind of starting to be a little bit of time to, I don't know if it's panic, but you can be a little worried about Andrew Kittredge, who is, he started off so strong, and now we look over a recent stretch, his last 7 appearances is an ERA north of 6. Granted, we know what happened with him on Saturday, and that was a blow up that cost him a few runs. So I don't know. Andrew Kittredge, what are your thoughts, Cardinals fans? He still completed that 8th inning tonight and led the way for Ryan Helsley to come in after the fact, and Helsley gave up a hit, but otherwise was solid in his inning of work to end the game. The triumvirate's been a huge part of what the Cardinals have done so far this year, but looked a little bit leaky again with Andrew Kittredge giving up the home run that he permitted in this game in the 8th inning. But all in all, really good night for the Cardinal pitching staff. That was really the only blip on the radar, other than Sonny's first couple of batters, which maybe propelled him into the game that he ultimately was able to accomplish. 19 of 26 first pitch strikes tonight for Sonny Gray is a huge statistic because, and we've talked about it, but it is night and day difference in the effectiveness he can have when he gets ahead in a count versus when he's behind. And he mentioned it again tonight that getting to 1-2 or 0-2 is about the most important thing that he can possibly do to set himself up for success. And he's got so many pitches. The variety is going to be daunting for a hitter that's trying to protect with 2 strikes. You can play mind games with guys. It is. I think this is obviously something that's going to be true for most pitchers, but I think Sonny Gray is near the top of the list of how important that differential is for him to get ahead and then be able to toy around with his arsenal compared to getting behind. And then because he is a thinker and he's going to overthink it, and if you're behind, it's just nothing good is going to come from it. And so for him to be able to get ahead most of the time tonight, you absolutely saw it play out in the way that he was able to perform. So the Cardinals win it 4-2. Sonny Gray improves to 8-4 on the season. Like I said, I think he is well within striking distance to win 20 games because he's the kind of guy that's going to get a lot of decisions. I don't know if that's anecdotal, if there's anything concrete to that, but it just feels like he's the type of guy that if he's going to lose, he wants to get beaten, he wants to be the one doing it. And if he's going to win, man, he's going to get you probably deeper into games and go 6 or 7 and be dominant, allowing for the offense to scrap out a little bit of a lead as they did tonight. And then with this Cardinal bullpen, you figure that they should be able to shut the door on the leads that Sonny Gray would provide. But at least so far this year, he has earned a decision, a win or a loss, in every single start that he's had, all 12 of them, and he's got that 8-4 record as a result. All right, let's talk a little bit about the offense. As Nolan Arenado continued, it's just been over the last few days, but he's really looked the part, and the numbers are starting to come as well. We're not seeing a ton of power from him this year, we know that, but did have a double tonight, had the double in last night's game, was taking extra bases with his legs and just heady base running last night. Tonight had an RBI, 3 for 4 in the game, had the double, scored a run as well. He's got the OPS up to 706 at this point, which is good to see. He was a mainstay in what the Cardinals were able to accomplish tonight offensively. Look, it started out the same as it always seems to for the Cardinals, where you had a bases loaded chance in the second inning. You look at the back end of that lineup that was coming up for that spot, and you just didn't feel very good about it. Dylan Carlson struck out. Granted, bad call on the inside corner, or I should say off the inside corner because it wasn't a strike, but Carlson was not in protect mode in that spot. It's hard to blame a guy, too. With the bases loaded, you're probably thinking, I mean, if they're going to put me on base, I'm going to let him. And that's a full count pitch that probably should have just been a Cardinal run because he should have been walked on the pitch. Instead, it's called strike 3. And then Michael Ciani, who we just know at this point it would be better served for the Cardinals if he was their fourth outfielder, a guy that probably plays in damn near every game because he's coming into the late innings as a defensive replacement, or in a situation where the Cardinals are desperate to score a run late, he comes in as a pinch runner, and you can keep him in there for defense in the 8th or 9th inning. I just don't think the Cardinals are going to be at their best with Michael Ciani starting every game the way he primarily has been recently. And look, your other option right now is Dylan Carlson to come in and play some center field. He started tonight for the Cardinals as well in one of the corner outfield spots alongside Michael Ciani. And for Carlson, it was a 1 for 4 night. Did have an RBI in this game. Really sharply hit ball off the glove of the third baseman. Was good to see from Dylan, but 2 strikeouts as well. So this game started off in that way, as I mentioned. Second inning, you're like, oh boy, here we go again. The Cardinals with Risp. But they ended up coming through enough times. They go 3 for 9 with Risp in the game. And after starting 0 for 2, I think 3 for 9 is definitely a rate that you'll take. And they didn't wait too long after that second inning failure to get it started. They scored in the bottom of the third, the top of the lineup doing some work. That was when Arenado doubled, and he was able to play Paul Goldschmidt with that. And that's a 2-out rally as well. You know, that's a spot in the game where things could have certainly settled in for Pittsburgh after the Cardinals loaded them up in the second, didn't score. You feel like maybe you got away with one. Mason Wynn lines out, Burleson grounds out, and suddenly there's 2 outs, and it just feels like same old, same old. But Goldie with a base knock and Arenado with a double, and Goldie able to score from first base on that one because of what was ultimately just a blunder by the left fielder, Brian Reynolds. I do say he's a stone-cold killer, but on that play he wasn't. It's that same, and I mentioned, like, not a lot of power, technically a double for Arenado, but it's the same kind of sort of fought-off swing that he's had a few times where he's just blooped him into left field. He had a double last night the exact same way, the one that was closer to the line, and I thought was going to end up as simply being a single, but he busted his ass out of the box and was able to beat it out for a double. Did something similar tonight, but Brian Reynolds just face-planted, and the ball got by him, which is how Goldie was able to score from first. That'll help the old slugging percentage for Arenado, but still would like to see him nuke the ball a little more often. Although the first hit that he had tonight, the base hit single in the second inning was deflected off of the glove of O'Neal Cruz. That one was hit pretty well. I actually kind of want to find the StatCast number on that one because I don't know it off the top of my head. And it was the kind of swing that you feel like, all right, you just start lifting those a little bit higher, big boy, and Arenado is going to be just fine. The Cardinals have obviously been waiting for a little while to see him be just fine, so you understand the only 94 off the bat, which is kind of surprising to me. O'Neal Cruz, it was too hot to handle for O'Neal Cruz, though. I do know that much. But you start to see those types of swings where he was just in there balanced. I think it can lead to some good things for Arenado, and he's already been doing it. He's got a couple multi-hit games in a row. Has been playing a lot better defensively, and even the base running has been strong by Nolan Arenado recently. So good to see that from him. Good to see the Cardinals not just let it stop there. They were looking for opportunities in the 4th inning. Brendan Donovan had a really nice night in his own right with a 2-hit game while also reaching base via walk. So he was on base 3 times, had an RBI and a run scored as well. He can just get you any type of hit that you need. He'll fight one off to the opposite way just to beat it through the infield. He can pull the ball. He can hit it right back up the chute. He can do just a little bit of everything. And in the 4th inning, his base hit got the line moving a little further. And then credit to Ivan Herrera, who stole third base. This was a weird one where he had such a good jump that he actually stopped in the middle of taking off thinking, oh, shoot, if the pitcher turns around right now, I'm cooked because he technically hasn't committed to home plate. The jump was unbelievable that he kind of had to wait a little bit because he didn't want the pitcher to step off, but still was able to get into third base despite taking 2 or 3 or 4 steps and then dead stopping in his tracks as the pitcher was committing to his delivery and then moving on. It was such an out-of-the-blue sort of thing that Donovan didn't even trail him. Donovan was the runner at first base, didn't even trail him to steal second base when Ivan Herrera was going after third, which ultimately didn't end up being that big of a deal because even though Dylan Carlson got the RBI hit to score the run from third base Herrera on the next batter, it was deflected off of Brian Hayes' glove, and it really didn't trickle far away enough to where even if Donovan had been on second, he would not have scored. So that's not the end of the world necessarily. And ultimately, they do find a way to get Brendan Donovan home later in the inning as they loaded him up. Michael Ciani had the bunt base hit with still nobody out. And at that point, you're just really just trying to set the table for the top of the order. Kind of weird to see. Guy is technically in scoring position, so that'll count as one of the Cardinals' hits with Risp among that 3 for 9. So it wasn't a run-scoring hit with Risp, but ultimately they were able to get at least one more run out of that inning. Probably would like to see even a little more than that because he did have the bases loaded with nobody out. But it was a Mason Wynn ground ball that they nearly turned a double play on, couldn't quite get it done. Mason Wynn able to get to first base, so he is credited with an RBI. Wouldn't have been otherwise if it would have been a double play. And then Burleson actually does ground into a double play, which ends the threat there. So the Cardinals really could have broken the game open at that point, still dealing with some Risp woes. Like you think about that inning, they didn't really do a lot with their Risp opportunities in terms of driving in runs with base hits. Dylan Carlson had one on his base knock that scored a run, but then Ciani's single was a bunt, so that counts as a hit with Risp, doesn't plate a run. Mason Wynn doesn't get a hit with Risp, but does drive a run in on the force out. And then Alec Burleson, his is worth 2. They should be double as bad with Risp because not only is he out, but the next guy doesn't get a chance to plate that runner who is in scoring position because the inning is over. So this was kind of a spot where things could have turned a little on the Cardinals, and they even give the run back right away with a mini rally off of Sonny Gray. And as he mentioned, that was the one where he said, who cares about giving up the run, but leadoff double, push the runner across with a single later in the inning. And something I thought was interesting in this spot, especially when you think back to the Colorado game and how the 5th inning really unraveled on Sonny Gray. It was coming in an inning where Ivan Herrera was having a really brutal time behind the plate last Thursday. He allowed a couple of stolen bases in the inning, a couple of wild pitches, which one of them I had pinned to Sonny, but the other one I thought Ivan should have certainly kept in front of him. And he was just having a real hard time. Remember, this was about the time where folks really started to pay attention and take notice of his deficiencies in throwing out base runners. And it was an inning that just kind of spiraled not only on Sonny Gray last Thursday, but on Ivan Herrera as the catcher too. So when Michael A. Taylor steals second base and advances to third on Herrera's throwing error because he comes up gunning and just leaves it short, it bounces and rolls through. Probably something that as the infielder you've got to block. You try to come up with it, but it's just he short-hopped him, and it's another bad throw by Herrera, another error. It's still a massive, massive problem for him, and it's a reason that I don't think you see him every day right now. Like, Pages, to me, is probably going to catch Palante because that's been working well. It's been working well to have Pages catch Michaelis. Heck, you've got 2 Cardinal starters going 7 innings in consecutive days. I don't know how often that's happened this year or within the last couple of years, honestly. But Pages has done a really nice job defensively. I know that offensively he leaves a lot to be desired at this point in his career, and Herrera is certainly the better option there at the plate. But defensively, these things matter. So the point I'm trying to make, for Sonny Gray to basically lock back in after things started to spiral a little bit in the 5th inning, gave up a double, then that run scores on a 1-out single, then that guy steals second, he gets to third because your catcher made a bad throw. Things could start to spiral. He locks in, struck out Henry Davis, struck out McCutchen to end the inning. That is a massive difference compared to what we saw from him in the 5th inning in that game on Thursday. And even the McCutchen at bat was one that went to a full count. He got behind. He didn't get to that 1-2 or 0-2 that he typically has really been needing in order to lock it in. was really trying the sinker during that at bat, threw 4 of them of the 6 pitches, but changed things up a little bit on the full count, threw him a cutter, and was able to locate it really effectively just off the outside corner, and perfect spot for another strikeout. So for Sonny Gray to look, I think sometimes he does get into his own head a bit, and that may have happened in that 5th inning last week where he wasn't going to say it. He wasn't going to throw Ivan Herrera under the bus, but had to be frustrating to have some of those outside factors go against you the way that they did. And this time when some of that was happening again, he took it upon himself and made sure to get himself out of the jam. 2 key strikeouts there from Sonny Gray in the 5th inning. And from there, really just not a lot of traffic. Only allowed 1 more base runner on the night, which was a 2-out double to O'Neal Cruz in the 6th. Other than that, he was clean. Really impressive stuff by Sonny Gray. Like I said, probably could have gone 8. And just maybe no reason to push it at this point. Get him out of there feeling good about it with the lead and with Kittredge and Helsley available. You'd like to see Kittredge not give up that homer to Henry Davis, but again, was able to bounce back from it with a couple of strikeouts to get through that 8th inning. So you feel good from a pitching perspective, I think, on the Cardinals. And offensively, even though I still think they leave a lot to be desired with some clutch situations, they were able to come up with just enough tonight and win this game 4-2. Look, 4 is one of those numbers that I still think can be good enough for the Cardinals more times than not. If you score 3, you're going to be in trouble. If you score 4, especially with Sonny Gray on the mound, you've given yourself a legitimate chance to win that game. You've got to at least get to 4 and give him that breathing room, give the bullpen that level of breathing room too. Cardinals had 11 hits in this game, though, so you would think that if they were really firing on all cylinders, they would have been able to do a little bit more with those 11 hits. Also reached base once via walk, and that was Donovan. So you had enough base runners. They ended up with 7 left on base. 3 for 9 with Risp. Remember, 0 for 2 in a key spot with the bases loaded in the 2nd inning, and then the Michael Ciani bunt counts as one of those 3 hits. So, really outside of that, you're 2 for 9, or 2 for 8, rather. And the situations you did come in, sometimes you're scoring runs on fielder's choice, on forced outs that could have been double plays, etc. So I would still say there is room for improvement offensively for the Cardinals. And just as you think you get one guy going, Arenado's going. Herrera had a nice night offensively, going 3 for 4. Donovan looked really good, taking some good ABs. You get one of these guys going, 2 of these guys going, somebody else kind of slides back. And it's been Nolan Gorman a little bit lately now. Was 0 for 4 tonight with a golden sombrero, 4 strikeouts, as he's down to a 219 batting mark with a 773 OPS. We know he's going to be a streaky player, but now over his last 7, suddenly he's got just the 1 home run, which he hit last night in the failed effort to charge a comeback there for the Cardinals. He's hitting 111, though, over his past 7 games, 3 for his last 27. Couple runs scored, a home run, 2 ribbies, 2 walks, and 10 strikeouts during that stretch. So he's, again, that's just a 7-day sample, but 7-game sample, rather. But certainly that's not the Nolan Gorman that you want to see in the middle of your lineup. You want to get back to seeing the guy that was, nuking a homer every other night. And even though he was striking out, you were still getting the benefit of that power that he so capably provides when he's going right. So we'll see if the Cardinals can't find a way to get him recharged and ready to go for the day game on Thursday. And we'll see what the lineup ends up looking like, too. Like, I would expect that with a day game after a night game, and the catcher for this team is not Yadier Molina or even Wilson Contreras. It's Herrera right now. I would think you might see Pages just because of the scheduling of it. And maybe that might have been something that, whether it happens or not, would have been known prior to this game. So maybe they talked about that. But Lance Lynn going against Mitch Keller, 2 guys with ERAs in the 3s. Keller is at 3.16. Lynn's at 3.58. We'll have to look back and see really what the catcher situations have been for Lynn. But we know with Michaelis, Pages has been good. We know that with Palante, Pages has been good. So you might like to get Herrera this one. And maybe the way to kind of resolve it is that he could be the DH in this matchup. But that would mean Pages behind the plate. So we'll see the way that the Cardinals want to ultimately go with that. We'll see if it ends up being another opportunity for Brandon Crawford. We know that that's been sort of a trend, day game after a night game, to give Mason Wynn a spell. Look, I understand that it frustrates people, but and it was interesting to hear one of the things that John Mozeliak talked about at Blogger Day, which I didn't really get a chance to fully do a podcast strictly on that. I don't know if I will at this point, but one of the things he said is alluding to the frustration of people that just don't outside voices that don't really have the information that a guy like Ole Marmol is going to have on these decisions to know when a Mason Wynn needs a day. And just because they don't reveal all the information publicly does not mean that Mason Wynn does not need that day. It's just the communication gap is always going to be there between what's known in that clubhouse versus what they are going to give the grotesque detail regarding in public. And sometimes that means all he has to fall on the sword. He looks kind of numb for a decision, but in reality, I think a lot of the time, if they're saying Mason Wynn, it's because Mason Wynn probably needs that day. And we'll see if Thursday's one of those. We know that he had kind of a flare-up of the back concern within the past week or two. So this could certainly be a time to see if they can manage him a little more aggressively. But if you take Mason out, you put Brendan Donovan back to the top, see the way the Cardinals decide to go about it there. But I know you're all hoping to see Mason Wynn in the lineup certainly tomorrow, because I think he obviously gives the Cardinals their best chance to be able to win and come away with this, not only this series against Pittsburgh, but the homestand in general. And just looking briefly at numbers for Mitch Keller, I initially had pulled it up because I was kind of wondering if I would get any history on Nolan Gorman against the starter, Mitch Keller for Pittsburgh. And he is 2 for 9 in his career facing Keller, does have a double to his name in that span, as well as a couple of walks. So 697 OPS, that's a very small sample, but not dreadful numbers, couple of strikeouts. I just wondered if maybe they would be eager to get a day for Nolan Gorman at some point, because it seems like he's been a guy they've been riding pretty hard, and it's not a lefty on the mound, but we've also seen the Cardinals willing to play Gorman against lefties or righties this year. I wonder if maybe it's a day where he could get the DH honors. You play Donovan at second, gives you another opportunity to get Dillon in there if you're trying to give him a spark and a way to find some confidence. You might be able to go Burley in left, Siani in center, Dillon in right. Donovan plays second. Gorman could be your DH. And then we'll see what it ends up looking like as far as Mason Wynn v. Crawford, v. whatever you might want to do at shortstop, or anybody else that may need a day off or get a blow. Like, this is a day where I think Ole Marmol is going to look and wish he could put multiple guys at DH rather than have them field their position. Like, you want to get Goldie off his feet every now and again. We know this is a bit of a grueling stretch where the Cardinals are not getting that off day after the one they got earlier this week on Monday. So to be able to keep guys fresh on the front end of that, you got the Birmingham trip later on next week. I'll be curious to see maybe the way that goes. Might not be an obvious game for Matt Carpenter. That's another question you might have when it comes to pitching matchups, because sometimes they'll put him in as the DH when there's an obvious benefit to it. He's just 1 for 5 with a double against Keller for his career, though he does have a couple of walks to his name as well. So, if he's seeing him well and taking good at-bats, maybe that is something they would do. As for Dillon, he is just 1 for 11 with a couple of walks. So just not really a lot of success at all for the Cardinals against Mitch Keller. They're hitting the guys that are eligible for this lineup, I guess, are hitting 221, the current Cardinals. Although it's kind of dumb that ESPN, as I'm looking at this, has Kyle Gibson and Miles Michaelis in there, combined 0 for 4 against Mitch Keller. I don't think there are any other pitchers on this list. So really, they're 21 for 91 as a team of position players, which is a 230 batting average. So better than the 221, but not a ton of power either. Just the one home run as a team comes from Arenado, who has seen him 17 times. He's 4 for 17 with no walks. So anyway, that's what's coming up tomorrow. It's going to be an afternoon game, so I wanted to give you kind of the preview, because I think as you're listening to this, you might be going right into game time as the Cardinals look to get the win in the series in the homestand. It's not what anybody wanted, but it should be. It's kind of necessary. You need it. Stay out of last place, kick Pittsburgh out of town, and take advantage of them. They're a solid ball club this year. I don't think the Pirates are just going to go away. And again, they finished better in the standings than St. Louis did last year. We got to keep remembering that the Cardinals were the last place team. So all these also rans in the NL Central that you look at and think, oh, the Cardinals should be beating these guys up. Well, they didn't last year. And so you just can't necessarily count your chickens before they hatch. But we'll see what the Cardinals do. And let me know, obviously, if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, concerns. I did post the video of me getting shot on Tuesday night, leaving Busch Stadium after covering the game. It was a little after 11 p.m. When I say shot, with an airsoft gun, wasn't real, but I didn't know it at the time, which made it really frightening. And that video is on my channel. The title of the video will let you know which one it is. If you wanted to see that, don't watch it if that kind of stuff freaks you out or whatever. But you do kind of see me react to it in a way that some have contended was not the most masculine thing I could have possibly done. But I would say to that, let you get shot and not know for a split second in that moment whether it's a gun, whether it's a water gun, what's going on, middle of downtown where you're taking a video, and let me know how you react. I think I did pretty okay. But some people kind of had some fun at my expense with that one. But if you want to check that out, feel free to do so. I just didn't want to inundate this video with it too much. The loyal listeners who make it all the way to minute number 35 in this podcast figure they would want to know. So anyway, appreciate you guys for joining me. Also, I keep forgetting to do it, but Jared, I wanted to welcome Jared to the YouTube membership. He's a channel member now as of a couple of days ago, and I need to give him a shout out earlier in the video than I did this time, but Jared's on board. That makes 17 channel members. If you'd like to become lucky number 18, maybe get Jordan Walker back to the big leagues, because that is his number. Maybe that's all we need is to get 18 channel members on the YouTube channel, Brenden Schaeffer, St. Louis Cardinals writer, and that'll get Jaywalk back up. Who knows? If you'd like to learn more about channel memberships, the link is always in the description to each video on the channel. That is going to do it, though, for this edition of the show. Appreciate you guys, as always, and we'll talk to you next time on Be Shafe Daily. Peace.